Welcome to Wander Paws Down Under. I'm Dan,
I'm Anita.
and together we're traveling around Australia with our dog Wally, our cat Paprika, our off-road caravan, and our trusty Toyota Hilux.
And we're here to bring some pet traveling tips on the road. And today we actually have just some tips for you. How to navigate the national parks.
How to navigate the national parks. The thing that, to be honest, we actually knew was going to be one of the most challenging bits of Australia, and it has definitely delivered with the challenge, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And unfortunately, most of Australia is national parks. Like a lot of the places you're going to want to visit are inside national parks. And if you're traveling with pets, that can come, with all of the challenges that we're about to share with you. But we have found a way to get around it
Definitely.
from time
So,
to
in this episode, we're going to share our 5 top tips of how we manage this situation. But before we do, please remember to hit subscribe if you haven't already and click on that bell so that you can get all the amazing new updates from our channel.
Yes, please.
So, first up, what do you want to talk about?
I guess national parks, the
National
most,
parks,
the
yes, that's what
most,
we're talking
yeah,
about.
the most obvious option, I think, but also maybe not if you haven't used it before. There are amazing apps out now, like Mad Paws, which is the one that we tend to use, where you can literally kind of like go nearby and search for pet sitters within the area. So it doesn't work for every place because, depending on your location, you might be quite remote, but you might find in a lot of places, like we were able to use, even in the most strangest places, at Monkey Mia in Shark Bay, we found on Mad Paws a pet sitter who was just a backpacker that had some space at their place to be able to look after Wally and Paprika when we went out into the national park, Cape Range National Park. No, that's a different one.
Francois
Francois,
Perron
that's the one.
National Park.
Francois Perron
Do you like my
National
French
Park.
accent? It was good,
Francois
wasn't it?
Perron. I love it. So that was a really good option. It also gives you a good list of, whether people will do daycare, whether they will do overnight stays. We find it to be a little bit better than putting what we'll talk about the next option into catteries or kennels because they kind of have a one-on-one. They're in a house. They're a little bit more safe. They get walks, so not other animals around a lot of the time. We've used it multiple times. We've actually used it again recently when we were up in the top end, and it was just one of the best solutions for us. And to be honest, whenever we pick up Wally, he seems to be like wants to stay with the pet sitter more than us. So he obviously has a great time. They've got recommendations like star ratings, reviews. Um, yeah, so
I just
Mad Paws is
find,
my favorite.
yeah, I just find that the people that are on Mad Paws tend to be pet lovers
Yeah,
themselves, and sometimes they have their own pets, which they are very transparent about. Often they don't, and yeah, the multiple times which we've used that platform, Wally has come away kind of not even caring that much about
yeah.
us.
He kind of goes in like all like, oh, who's this new exciting person? And then when we leave, he's like sits next to the person that he's supposed to be, leaving, and doesn't really ever want to see us. Very different experience to what we've had at pet kennels and categories. So
Not just sits next to them. I believe, if I recall correctly, at the last place where we left him, he snuck into the swimming pool of that young lady's
yeah,
yard,
you sure
unbeknownst
did.
to them, and all of a sudden they see this Wally bobbing up and down in the pool casually, really quietly, because he
Having a
probably knew he
swim.
wasn't meant to go in there, but good on
So
him.
you get some funny stories, and a lot of the time they'll send you pictures, and it's just a really nice platform. And like I said, you can choose and pick like between many different people a lot of the time, and they do have reviews or they have like trusted sitter recommendations, which is
Yeah.
great.
We also found that this option is one of the more cost-effective options, especially compared to kennels.
Yeah,
And if you weigh that up against that sort of one-on-one personalized
yeah,
care touch, that this is definitely one of our um, top recommendations for how we deal with
yeah.
pets in national parks. But on the flip side, people are not always available where you need them.
Especially near national parks, being a lot of the time they might be quite remote, and there's not that many people around. Um, so that's where the pet kennels and catteries can sometimes be your only option. The reason that catteries and pet kennels are our last option is because, as you might know, if you've ever been or had any experience with pet kennels, there are usually quite a number of other animals there. So, especially in rural, you can have all different kinds of animals, different types of dogs, different personalities. You just don't know how they're going to get along. They're usually restricted to a small space. You can usually like choose between a big kennel for a large dog, a double kennel, but you're paying more for the bigger sized kennels. And for cats, a lot of the time, as most people would know, most cats aren't social, and they're in with other cats. So for us, we have had a good experience where we've needed to use it, but Wally got bitten the last time he went to a kennel. There's sometimes at the moment a lot of kennels have canine flu and
Kennel cough.
kennel cough,
Yeah.
and it's actually very, very bad. So and it's not the kennel's fault, it's no one's fault, but in an environment with multiple animals, you are going to have a lot more risk of them catching something and a lot less one-on-one time.
Yeah, definitely. That being said, if it is your only option, it is your only option. So
Yeah,
sometimes there's just no choice in the matter. You've got to do it. Often they're not that cheap as well. But yeah, we have had to use it only, what, once or
yeah.
twice? Yeah.
And you will definitely find cat cat and dog kennels in more remote locations. But it's the same sort of thing. You just shop around, read reviews, and you will find a lot of the places do have good reviews, and a lot of the places are, really well kept and clean. But yeah, you just kind of run the risk, unfortunately, with multiple animals in one area that there might be, yeah, passing around some germs. No different to any kindergarten or, play school for kids. So yeah, you just have to kind of pick and choose where you can, and when you can't, it's a top option.
Yeah, definitely. So if there's no option for a kennel or there's no pet sitter or your budget doesn't allow,
Yeah,
sometimes, and I say sometimes because we've only seen it a very in a very small number of national parks, you are actually allowed to leave your pets in the car park, or specifically your dog,
yeah,
as long as it's, either confined to your caravan or tied up under or
yeah.
around your caravan.
So obviously that means weather permits for one,
Yeah,
depending on how hot it is. But like Dan said, it's not every national park. So please don't take this as you can do that anywhere. There are very specific rules with national parks. You will have to check parks websites, check the signs. Um, but we found at Kings Canyon, we've mentioned in a previous episode that that was an option, which was awesome because we had the long run, what do they call the drive-through car parks. It was a nice, cool day. The dog and the cat just hung out in the caravan before and after we kind of came back, and there was no problems. So
yeah,
it's
definitely.
not an option everywhere, though.
It is correct. It is correct. Yeah, look, the fines can be really, really heavy, even if a ranger does catch your pets in your car and they're in the car park.
Yeah,
Physically just driving onto a national
yeah.
park land can sometimes land you in a lot of hot water and with massive, massive fines. So please do your diligence,
Just
check.
don't assume. It's
Yeah,
I think it's like $1,500 per pet. It can be
in the
even
Northern
more.
Territory,
Yeah, in the Northern Territory, it can be more. And we have heard stories where people have been caught not walking around with their pets, but just in the car parks and stuff. So it is an option for very limited spaces, but just make sure you read the website.
yeah, and also use your judgment because if you're in a really bushy area that has heaps of snakes or the potential for
Yeah,
snakes or dingoes or any other wildlife to come and disturb your pooch if he or she is tied up outside,
yeah,
that's not a situation you want to be coming back
yeah,
to after your
exactly.
nice hike as well. So I think this is probably not up there in terms of preferences for us. We've only done it once
At
or
Kings
twice.
Canyon, it was the best option.
Yeah,
It was great
uh,
because it's just a short walk and
yeah, and we left them inside with the appropriate
yeah,
cooling mechanisms in
yeah,
place as well.
exactly.
Yeah,
But it's not for everywhere. Yeah.
definitely. So,
Sometimes you might get lucky at a caravan park.
you can get lucky. So caravan parks often have other people, especially if they're pet friendly, that are traveling with their pets as well. And if you enjoy a good chat with people and you want to mingle, we sometimes do, sometimes don't. But, often other pet owners are in the same boat as you are. So as part of your lovely conversation that you might strike up, you can test the waters around, well, I can look after your pet today, you can look after mine tomorrow when we go in, or vice versa, or maybe in the morning and afternoon. We have seen that option used before. We have used that option
Yeah.
ourselves.
In
It's a
Uluru,
really,
that was a
really
good
good
one.
one because other people are in the same boat, so they're going to take care
Yeah.
of your pet pretty well.
And sometimes they'll even be willing to like mind your pets for a fee. Some people in the caravan park, a lot of
Mm,
great nomads obviously are in places for a lot longer of a time. And sometimes they want to earn a little bit of extra cash. So sometimes if they're a dog lover, you see them walk past and they give your pooch some extra attention. I have heard of other campers saying that those people were happy to look after the dog for like $20 or something, so that's also another option. Um, yeah, we have used the option of, doing a pet swap once when we were in Uluru, and that
Mm.
was, yeah, it worked for us for a couple of hours. So,
Yeah, and we have also left it with people in the care of people at the caravan park as
yeah.
well.
Oh,
So yeah,
true.
typically for a very nominal fee, sometimes they will allow it. You just have to ask, often there's no signs. You just ask and see what the options are. They might either recommend a local pet sitter, or they'll just do it themselves, or the answer will be no.
Well, like in Kununurra, it wasn't advertised anywhere, but when we walked in, we noticed behind the counter that the woman that was serving us had a dog there. And we were just kind of like, oh, hi, dog, like, just being like, you know, saying hello to the pooch as we normally would. And she was like, oh, no, I'm actually pet minding this dog. So we just keep, because it's very hot in Kununurra, they were like, oh, we'll just keep him in here in the aircon. I'll
Dog is
take him
having a
out for
great
a
time.
walk.
He's
Yeah,
happy as
so
Larry.
you just don't know. So when it comes to caravan parks, tourist parks, if it's not peak season, I would say,
Yeah,
you might get lucky that even the caravan park will do pet minding, or like we had in Flinders Ranges, Worsley Park had a kennel on site.
yeah,
So just pick and choose your places, give them a call in advance. Maybe it's something that you can arrange with the caravan park.
definitely. So number five is one that again definitely use your discretion and definitely be very careful where you do this, and in particular the temperatures in which you're operating, the
Yeah,
humidity. But that's actually to leave your pets inside your caravan or your camper trailer while you go off and do your hike or whatever your little national park expedition. Obviously, that has to be done outside of the grounds of the national park unless it's specifically permitted. But this is probably the most often used option in our little toolkits, and one that has worked really well for us, both to save costs and also to save on some logistics, because sometimes you've got to drive quite a while to get to pet sitters,
yeah,
etc. Use a lot of fuel, use a lot of time,
yeah,
miss out on a whole bunch of experiences along the way in the national park. But again, we've been really lucky. The places where we've traveled, temperature's been reasonable in the morning, usually, less so
yeah.
in the late afternoon, but more so in the morning. So we have planned quite a lot of our hikes and little expeditions
In
in
little,
that early
yeah,
morning.
in little like sections of the day. So we'll do early morning and like just before it gets dark type
Yeah,
thing.
get
Look,
up very early,
yeah,
obviously. For,
absolutely.
for those uh for those night owls,
And
it
as a
may not be the best option, but
yeah,
you got to
exactly.
do what's right for your pets, I think.
Yeah, as a pet owner, you're going to know that if you're taking them on this trip, you're going to compromise a little bit. So you'll have to pick and choose the places that you can go to, and it's going to be a little less convenient than for people that are, traveling on their own or with kids, because kids are allowed everywhere. Pets aren't.
Well, I mean, they are our kids, but I
Yeah,
guess, yeah.
but the cat also is very easy. We can leave him in the caravan. Like he doesn't mind to be in the caravan. He prefers to be in the caravan. So, if it's a good day, he's not bothered by being in there for a few hours.
Yeah.
Wally, we do tend to be a little bit more, concerned because he gets bored, or, it's a big dog in a small space. So we're a little bit more cautious with him.
But the way we deal with that situation is if we know we're going to go out for a few hours and, poor Wally might be a little bit bored inside, before we go out, we'll chuck the ball
Oh
around, get
yeah.
him nice and tired, get him mentally stimulated, or take him for a walk
Yeah.
or for a swim. That way,
Tire him
he
out.
can come back, he can just rest and sleep and get a bit of respite away from us because we can be a handful as well,
Oh,
can't we?
absolutely. And do you know what?
But he's
I
got no escape from the cat, though.
No, he
He's
doesn't.
tormentor.
He's like captor is like
I wonder what we should put up a camera in our caravan and see just what happens because I know that at home back in Melbourne, that cat torments the hell out of the dog.
well, thus far there's no damages we've noted in the caravan, so they must be behaving pretty well, I think. But yeah, like there's also the option that a lot of caravan parks don't say, like they say that you're not allowed to leave your pet in the caravan, but if your pet's not barky, like your dog doesn't bark a lot, he's pretty chill,
Or if your
or if
cat
you've got a
doesn't bark.
cat and you parked in the shade,
You didn't
for
even laugh at
one,
my joke.
oh
I said if
sorry,
the cat doesn't
oh
bark.
the cat doesn't.
Oh God.
Yeah, so like, as long as kind of no one even knows that they're in there, you can probably get away with it. Or two, they actually don't mind. They don't mind. They're not going to come over and like tell you off or anything if they don't even hear the pets. So yeah, look, there's plenty of options. We've found ways around it. Um, we have also had to do things in turns from time to time.
Yep.
That's another little option we forgot to talk
That's
about.
number six.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, no.
Taking
We're
things in
we're into
turns.
we're into bonus time now. Let's go.
Like you wanted to go to Bitter Springs and I didn't want to go, and
Yep.
so I took the pets and drove around because it was a hot day, and we kind of just did our own thing while Dan went and had a look, and then we made the choice whether we wanted to swap, and he'd do the same. I would go in. We did the same at Uluru and Platituda.
Yep.
So yeah, look, that's another option. If there's two of you, you just take turns.
Yeah.
Like you won't do everything together. Just make sure it's a safe place to go on your own, in terms of hiking, and make sure that you can keep in contact. But other than that, it's pretty easy navigating. There's sometimes that it's been really challenging, but more for convenience.
Mm.
Not impossible to do. We haven't really missed out on anything, but
Not too
it can
much.
be
Yeah.
inconvenient, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
But
I mean, look, you might use a bit of extra petrol, you might lose a bit of time here or there, but if you're the sort of person that will stress if you are, say, leaving them inside, then it's always better to go and get them cared for, particularly if it's a
yes,
well-reviewed place. You want to be at ease as well. You want to explore the national park
you
and
don't want
not
to be
have to
thinking
think
about
about
them.
them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we've done that. We've left them, behind a couple of times, and then all we could think about was, oh, should we have done that? Should we not have done that?
I recall you even did that when you left them at a kennel
Yeah, well,
and a cattery. You stressed for like 2 days, and I was like,
I
come
think
on.
I even stressed when we left them at the pet sitters. I was like, oh, I didn't tell them this, this, and this, and this. Just what if this happens? What if that happens? Look, I'm a bit of a helicopter mum when it comes to my babies, but I've gotten better. I promise. I've gotten better. So
Hey,
yeah, that's pretty much like,
no,
oh,
I
sorry,
just
I've
thought
got
of
another
another
one.
one. Bonus round number two. All right, extra time. Last one, I
Wally's
promise.
eating something over there, by the way.
Looks like an old bone.
Okay.
Anyway, don't need to brush his teeth tonight. Bonus round. And look, this only applies on the East Coast and probably more so in Victoria, New South Wales, and parts of Queensland. But a little hack that we've picked up along the way is usually next to national parks, you also have state forests.
Hmm.
And the best part about most state forests, not all, but the vast majority, is they are totally pet friendly. So what you can do is you can go and camp there, usually for free, but sometimes you also need to pay, so you'll need to do your diligence. And because you're actually close to a national park, you can use that safely leave them at home option if it is cool enough, if you have the appropriate
Yeah.
cooling mechanisms inside. And that way you're not too far away. And if you're remote, then it's all good. And you can also play with your dog or let your cat outside so they get a bit of entertainment prior. And basically, yeah, go off and do your national park.
And the other thing is like, I think we assume that we need to go to all of the national parks to have a good time in Australia or to
Great
see
point.
all of the beautiful things. But we are learning really quickly that there are so many places that are not national parks that you can take your pets. Like we won't tell you where we are right now, but we literally have just spent the day at a waterfall with Wally because it was in a state forest which was allowing dogs. So maybe you're just not looking on the right list. You might be following an Instagrammer or someone who makes you think you need to go to all of these places, but you don't know until you look for pet-friendly options and maybe speak to a local about where you can actually go because there are amazing places that are not national parks and are
Mm,
off the beaten track. And guess what? Less people, less problems. You
no
can go
worries.
and actually spend time with your pets. So we've got a whole entire list of hikes where we are right now that are not in national parks, that do have water for swimming, that do have waterfalls, that have rainforest walks. Oops, probably gave some things away, but it's just showing that there is actually a lot of other options. You don't have to, if it's not for you, that you don't want to leave your pets in pet sitting. If you're here to spend time with them, have a look around. There are actually quite a number of places that you can visit with your pets. Ask a local and you'll find all the best spots. That has been our biggest tip recently.
Or ask us.
Ask us. Yes,
Ask your mum,
good
ask your
idea.
dad,
In the
ask your
comments,
friends.
where are you going? How can we help you? Honestly, we're just finding that there is just so much to explore with your pets. You don't always have to put them into care. Look, some places are super remote and you might not go back there, so you do want to tick off the bucket list items. And that's where you would come in with I would always recommend pet sitting first if it's
Yep.
possible. The one-on-one care, the attention that they get, it's just unmatched. And yeah, otherwise, check out what you can actually do with your pets. They do exist. There's things that exist around that maybe you weren't seeing on the Instagram, websites and the blogs or whatever. So there's something out there for you with your babies.
No need to compromise. There you have it, folks. This is how we've been able to do pretty much every national park we've wanted to on our
Yeah.
trip thus far.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like us to share more of, or if you have any questions whatsoever. Till next time, we're
Bye for
Wonderboards. Bye.
now.